Good evening, everyone. I'm so glad you're here because today I want to talk about something that affects almost all of us at some point in our lives: stress and anxiety. We've all been there, feeling overwhelmed, trapped in our thoughts, unable to breathe, move, or think clearly. But what if I told you that you don't have to live that way? What if there was a way to break free from that cycle of stress and anxiety? Well, today, I'm going to share with you some powerful, simple tools that can help you take control of your mental and emotional well-being, tools that have the potential to change your life. And no, it doesn't involve magic or wishful thinking. These tools are backed by science, and they are 100% available to you right now. First things first, stress and anxiety are normal. They're a part of being human. But the good news is that we don't have to let them control us. What matters most is how we respond to them. You've got more power in you than you realize, and today we're going to tap into that. Stress and anxiety are things we all experience at some point in our lives. They are part of being human, natural responses to challenges, uncertainty, and the pressures we face every day. But here's the key point. They don't have to define you. They don't have to dictate your identity or determine your future. Stress and anxiety are simply emotions, sensations that arise in reaction to what's going on around you. They are temporary, and more importantly, they are manageable. For many of us, it can be easy to feel overwhelmed by stress, especially when it starts to build up over time. We begin to associate ourselves with it, thinking that anxiety is just who we are. We might tell ourselves, I'm always anxious, or I'm someone who gets stressed out easily. But those thoughts aren't the full truth of who you are. They don't capture the totality of your being. Imagine for a moment that you are standing at the edge of a vast ocean. The waves of stress and anxiety come crashing in, relentlessly, sometimes huge, other times small and manageable. But here's the thing, just because you're standing in the water, it doesn't mean the ocean is your identity. You are separate from the waves. The water doesn't define you. Stress and anxiety often stem from how we interpret the situations we face. A tough deadline at work, a disagreement with a friend, or uncertainty about the future can trigger a flood of anxious thoughts. But it's important to remember that these are reactions to external events, not permanent aspects of who we are. We have the power to change how we respond to these emotions and experiences. Take a moment to reflect on a time when you've experienced stress or anxiety and later realized that the situation wasn't as dire as you initially thought. Perhaps in the midst of your stress, you couldn't see a way out. But with time, things calmed down. The stressful situation resolved, or you gained clarity, and that anxiety started to fade. This proves that stress and anxiety, no matter how intense they feel in the moment, are not lasting, defining forces in your life. They pass. It's critical to acknowledge that you can detach from your emotions. You are not a victim of your feelings. Stress and anxiety are just signals that your mind and body are reacting to something, but they don't need to control your actions or shape your worldview. They are information feedback that something needs your attention, whether it's a need for rest, self-care, or adjusting how you perceive a situation. By embracing this idea, you empower yourself to shift your relationship with stress. Instead of fighting against it or letting it spiral into something overwhelming, you can begin to observe it. When anxiety rises, instead of becoming consumed by it, you can ask yourself, what's going on here? What's really at the root of this feeling? What do I need in this moment to find calm? This practice of mindfulness helps create distance between you and the emotions you're experiencing. You're not fighting the anxiety, you're simply allowing it to be, knowing that it's temporary. Every time you resist identifying with your anxiety or stress, you're reinforcing the truth that you are more than your emotions. You are a complex, dynamic individual with many layers, many strengths, and the ability to cope with life's ups and downs. These moments of stress and anxiety will come and go, but they don't have to control who you are or how you show up in the world. They are simply temporary waves, and you have the power to ride them until they subside. Stress and anxiety may visit, but they don't live in your soul. You define who you are, and you have the capacity to move through these emotions without being consumed by them. Taking responsibility for your thoughts is one of the most empowering shifts you can make in managing stress and anxiety. It begins with recognizing that no matter how overwhelming things feel, your thoughts play a massive role in how you experience the world. Often we think of our thoughts as being beyond our control, as if they just show up uninvited and dictate how we feel. But the truth is, your thoughts are not your destiny. They are something you can manage, challenge, and even change. Let's break it down. When you experience anxiety or stress, what's often happening is that your mind is playing a loop of thoughts that either magnify the situation or jump to worst-case scenarios. These thoughts create a cascade of emotions, tightness in your chest, a racing heart, maybe even physical tension in your body. And the more you focus on those anxious thoughts, the more real and intense they feel. But in that moment, it's important to realize that these thoughts are not fact. They're simply your mind's interpretation of what's going on around you. You have the power to challenge those thoughts. When you feel anxiety creeping in, ask yourself, is this thought true? What evidence do I have to support it? Is there another way I could interpret this situation? Often, when we slow down and look at our thoughts with a critical eye, we realize they are exaggerated, unrealistic, or rooted in fear, not in reality. Let's consider a common situation. You're preparing for a big presentation at work and the anxiety kicks in. Your mind might tell you, I'm going to mess this up. I'll forget everything. People will think I'm unprepared or incompetent. These thoughts trigger stress and overwhelm. But what if you paused and took a step back? What if, instead of letting that spiral continue, you said to yourself, I've prepared for this. I've done the work. I'm capable. And even if I make a mistake, that's okay. It's part of learning and growing. By taking responsibility for your thoughts, you take back control. You begin to shift your perspective from one of fear to one of empowerment. The key here is recognizing that your thoughts are not automatic truths. They are interpretations, and you can challenge them. It's like realizing that you don't have to accept everything your mind tells you. For example, when you hear that inner voice telling you, I can't do this, or I'm not good enough, you have a choice. You can accept those thoughts as fact, or you can consciously choose to reframe them. You can decide to believe that you can do this, that you are enough, and that you are capable of handling whatever comes your way. Taking responsibility for your thoughts also means becoming aware of the patterns that keep repeating. Maybe it's a habit of negative self-talk, or maybe it's an automatic response to certain situations that triggers anxiety. By identifying those patterns, you can begin to break them down. Each time you notice your mind going into a negative spiral, you have the opportunity to pause, breathe, and redirect your thoughts to something more productive, more balanced, or more realistic. This process of thought management isn't about perfection. It's about awareness and practice. You're not going to change your thought patterns overnight, but every time you choose to challenge those negative or anxious thoughts, you're creating new habits of thinking. Over time, those new habits will become stronger and more automatic. What's also important to remember is that taking responsibility for your thoughts doesn't mean suppressing or ignoring them. It's not about pretending you don't have fears or worries. It's about giving yourself the power to choose how you respond to them. Acknowledge your thoughts, yes, but don't let them control you. You don't have to agree with every thought that comes into your mind. You have the choice to respond differently, and that's where your power lies. In essence, when you take responsibility for your thoughts, you stop being a passive observer of your own mind. Instead, you become an active participant in shaping your mental and emotional experience. You begin to see that while you can't always control the world around you, you can control the way you interpret it, and that makes all the difference. Your thoughts don't have to define your experience. You may not be able to control every situation that life throws your way, but you absolutely have the power to change how you react to those situations. This is one of the most empowering realizations you can have when it comes to stress and anxiety. In fact, the way you respond to stress can have a bigger impact on your overall well-being than the stressor itself. When stress or anxiety strikes, the natural instinct is often to react immediately, either by becoming overwhelmed or by trying to avoid or control the situation. These knee-jerk reactions can escalate our stress, leaving us feeling trapped or powerless. But what if, instead of reacting automatically, you paused for a moment and chose how you wanted to respond? What if, in those moments of stress, you consciously decided to take a breath, think clearly, and act in a way that serves you? This is the heart of changing your reaction. Think about it. When you experience stress, you're often triggered by a thought or event. Your body responds with a flood of emotions like anxiety, anger, or fear, and your mind races to keep up with those feelings. But those initial emotions are just signals, they're not permanent. They don't have to control your behavior. You can train yourself to recognize when you're being triggered, and instead of allowing that feeling to take over, you can choose how you want to respond. Let's look at an example. Say you're facing a stressful deadline at work. Your initial reaction might be panic, thinking to yourself, I'm never going to finish this in time. I'm going to disappoint everyone. I'm failing. These thoughts, if you let them take over, will increase your stress and anxiety, causing you to spiral further into overwhelm. But what if, instead of reacting in panic, you chose to pause for a moment? You could take a deep breath, ground yourself, and ask, what's the next best step I can take right now? By shifting your reaction, you're giving yourself the space to regain control of the situation. The key to changing your reaction lies in developing awareness. Most of the time, our reactions are automatic, a product of years of conditioning and habit. But with practice, you can interrupt those automatic responses and introduce new, more constructive ones. This doesn't mean that the stress or anxiety will disappear instantly, but it means that you're no longer at the mercy of your emotions. You become the one in charge of how you respond, and this is incredibly empowering. One powerful way to change your reaction is through mindfulness. Mindfulness involves paying attention to your present moment without judgment, allowing you to step outside of the initial emotional reaction and observe what's happening in your mind and body. When stress arises, instead of jumping into fight or flight mode, mindfulness gives you the ability to pause and make a more deliberate choice. It helps you separate the feeling of anxiety from the reality of the situation so that you're not automatically swept away by your emotions. Another key to changing your reaction is reframing your perspective. Often the way we react to stress comes from the meaning we assign to a situation. For example, if someone cuts you off in traffic, you might feel immediately angry and defensive, thinking that person is rude. But what if you reframe that situation by considering other possibilities? Perhaps that person is in a hurry for a family emergency, or maybe they're just having a bad day. This doesn't excuse their behavior, but it shifts your reaction. Instead of getting caught up in anger or frustration, you can choose to remain calm and move on with your day. Changing your reaction also means setting boundaries with yourself and others. If you find that certain people, tasks, or environments trigger stress, it's essential to set boundaries to protect your mental and emotional health. Setting boundaries isn't about being selfish, it's about being self-aware and protecting your peace. For instance, if you know that a particular conversation will send you into a stress spiral, you can choose to excuse yourself or gently steer the conversation in a healthier direction. The truth is, you are always in control of how you respond to the situations that arise in your life. You may not be able to control the world around you, but you can control your response. And every time you take a moment to pause, reassess, and choose a different response, you reinforce your ability to manage your emotions rather than be ruled by them. This shift in how you react doesn't happen overnight. It takes practice and patience, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes. With time, you'll find that you're able to respond to stressful situations with a greater sense of calm, confidence, and resilience. You'll begin to realize that no matter how challenging life gets, your power lies in your ability to change your reaction. And that is a game changer when it comes to managing stress and anxiety. When we're overwhelmed by stress or anxiety, it's easy to think that we need to make drastic changes to improve our mental health, to find immediate relief, or to fix everything all at once. We get frustrated when things don't change quickly, and we might feel like giving up. But here's the truth. It's not about doing everything at once. It's about taking small, consistent actions every day that lead to lasting change. These small actions may seem insignificant in the moment, but over time they build up, creating a powerful ripple effect in your life. The key to long-term change is consistency. If you try to overhaul everything in a single day or expect to feel better instantly, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Real progress happens when you commit to taking small steps, actions that you can incorporate into your daily routine, even when you're busy, tired, or stressed. These small actions compound over time, helping you build resilience, improve your mindset, and manage your stress in a more sustainable way. Let's start with something simple, taking a few moments each day to check in with yourself. This could be as brief as taking 5 minutes in the morning to sit quietly and notice how you're feeling. Are you stressed, anxious, tired? Acknowledging your emotions without judgment is a small but powerful step toward taking control of your mental health. By practicing self awareness, you're creating space for change. You're actively engaging with your thoughts and emotions instead of ignoring or avoiding them. Another small, consistent action that makes a big impact is the practice of gratitude. It might sound cliche, but taking a moment each day to reflect on what you're thankful for can shift your mindset from scarcity to abundance. When you focus on what you have, rather than what's wrong or what you're missing, you start to reframe your perspective. You can even keep a gratitude journal where you write down 3 things you're grateful for every night before bed. This small habit can help lower stress levels, improve your mood, and build emotional resilience over time. Exercise is another powerful small action that can have a big impact on stress and anxiety. You don't need to commit to an intense workout routine, especially if that feels overwhelming. Even taking a 10-minute walk outside, doing some light stretching, or practicing yoga for just a few minutes can do wonders for your mental health. Movement helps release tension, boosts your mood, and improves overall well-being. The key is consistency. When you commit to even a small daily practice of moving your body, the effects add up. It's not about perfection, it's about showing up consistently for yourself. Another powerful tool is breathwork. It's something you can do anywhere, and it's incredibly effective in managing stress and anxiety. Simple techniques like deep breathing or box breathing, inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4, can help regulate your nervous system and bring you back to a state of calm. These breathing exercises don't take long, but when practiced regularly, they create a profound shift in how your body and mind respond to stress. Each time you take a deep breath, you're signaling to your body that it's okay to relax, to let go, and to create space for peace. Similarly, setting small boundaries throughout your day can help reduce feelings of overwhelm. If you're someone who tends to say yes to everything, it's essential to practice saying no in a way that respects your time and energy. Setting aside time for yourself, even if it's just 15 minutes to read, meditate, or take a break from screens, is a powerful way to protect your mental health. These boundaries don't need to be grand or dramatic, they just need to be consistent. Over time, those moments of self-care add up and make a noticeable difference in how you feel. The power of small, consistent actions also extends to your mindset. Instead of trying to overhaul all your negative thoughts at once, focus on shifting one thought at a time. If you catch yourself thinking, I can't handle this, try replacing it with, I've faced challenges before, and I'm capable of handling this one too. These small shifts in your self-talk may seem insignificant at first, but over time they reshape how you view yourself and your ability to cope with stress. Perhaps the most powerful small action you can take is simply practicing kindness to yourself. In moments of stress or anxiety, it's easy to fall into the trap of self-criticism, beating yourself up for feeling overwhelmed or not handling things perfectly. But small acts of self-compassion, saying to yourself, it's okay to feel this way, and I'm doing the best I can help shift your energy. Over time, these moments of kindness will accumulate, building a sense of self-acceptance and reducing the power of anxiety and stress over your life. None of these actions are complicated or time-consuming, but when practiced regularly, they begin to reshape your experience. They build momentum and create a foundation for greater peace and resilience. The small, consistent actions you take today may seem minor, but they're the seeds that, over time, will grow into a life where you can manage stress and anxiety with greater ease and confidence. It's not about grand gestures or instant results. It's about showing up for yourself bit by bit and trusting that those small steps are making a difference. The 5-second rule is a simple yet incredibly powerful tool that can help you break free from the grip of stress and anxiety. It's a tool that works by interrupting the automatic reactions your brain often has in moments of uncertainty, fear, or hesitation. The rule is simple. When you feel a moment of doubt, fear, or anxiety creeping in, count down from 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then take action. That's it. It's not a magic formula, but it has the ability to disrupt your automatic patterns of thought and behavior, putting you back in control. The power of this rule lies in its ability to create a moment of pause between the triggers, stress, anxiety, doubt, and your reaction. When you count down, you're momentarily overriding the habitual impulses of your brain. You're shifting from autopilot mode, where stress and anxiety usually control your actions, to a more intentional, conscious mode of operation. That small pause is enough to create a new pathway in your brain, a pathway that leads to action rather than inaction. What happens when we don't take action in stressful situations? We freeze, we overthink, we ruminate. We get stuck in that cycle of what ifs and worst case scenarios, which only heightens the anxiety. The 5-second rule breaks that cycle. By counting down, you're giving your mind a simple command: stop. Don't think too much. Don't worry. Just act. For example, imagine you're feeling anxious about speaking in public. The moment you step up to the podium, your mind might start racing. What if I forget everything? What if they think I'm terrible? In those moments, instead of letting your anxiety control you, you can count down from 5. As soon as you hit 1, you're not giving yourself any time to doubt. You're making the decision to move forward, to act despite the fear. The action doesn't have to be big. It could be as simple as taking a deep breath, starting your introduction, or just saying something to break the ice. The point is that you're choosing to act in the face of anxiety rather than being paralyzed by it. The beauty of the 5-second rule is its simplicity. You don't need any special skills or preparation to use it. It works in nearly every situation, whether you're facing a stressful deadline, feeling overwhelmed by personal responsibilities, or even just dealing with a challenging conversation. It's an on-the-spot, accessible tool that gives you control when things feel out of control. Another reason why the 5-second rule is so effective is that it helps you override the natural tendency to overthink and procrastinate. Anxiety often leads to paralysis by analysis. We get stuck in our heads, imagining worst-case scenarios, and we freeze. The rule helps you move past the thoughts that create that freeze response. By counting down and taking action, no matter how small, you're telling your brain that you are in control. You are not going to let your fears dictate your actions. The 5-second rule doesn't require perfection. It's not about doing everything flawlessly, but about taking that first step. And that step often leads to the next one. It's a powerful reminder that action doesn't have to be big to be meaningful. That small action you take, whether it's walking into a meeting, sending an email, or speaking up in a conversation, creates momentum. It interrupts the cycle of stress and opens up the possibility of progress. This rule also helps to challenge your inner critic. Many times we avoid taking action because we fear judgment, failure, or rejection. That fear feeds into our anxiety, which in turn holds us back. By applying the 5-second rule, you're overriding the fear of failure. You're pushing past the voice in your head that says, "What if it goes wrong?" and instead choosing to move forward anyway. You're sending a message to yourself that you can handle whatever comes your way. Using the 5-second rule consistently also strengthens your ability to manage stress and anxiety over time. Every time you make the choice to act despite the discomfort, you're building your confidence. You're training your brain to take action, not freeze. Over time, you'll find that you react more swiftly and with more clarity in the face of stress, rather than getting caught in rumination and overwhelm. Ultimately, the 5-second rule is about reclaiming control. Stress and anxiety thrive when we feel stuck or powerless, but when you take action, even in small ways, you remind yourself that you are in charge. You take back the power that fear and stress can steal from you. It's a quick, simple tool that creates a shift in your mindset and gives you the courage to face the moment with confidence. The next time you feel your anxiety rising, remember this rule: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Count down and then do something, anything, to move forward. The more you practice, the more it will become second nature. With this simple tool, you'll find that you can break through the overwhelm, take action in the face of fear, and ultimately transform the way you respond to stress and anxiety when stress and anxiety take over. It's easy to feel like everything is spiraling out of control. You may start to worry about what's going to happen in the future, what others think of you, or how every little detail needs to be perfect. This sense of helplessness can make everything feel like it's falling apart. But there's one powerful shift you can make, focusing on what you can control. At the core of stress and anxiety is often a desire to control the uncontrollable. We want to manage how other people behave, we want to predict the future, or we want to avoid any potential discomfort. But the truth is, we don't have control over most of the things that cause us stress. We can't control the actions of others, the outcome of every situation, or the unpredictability of life. And when we try to control things that are beyond our influence, we only create more stress and anxiety. The first step in shifting this mindset is to let go of the things that you cannot control. This doesn't mean that you ignore reality or stop caring about what happens. It means that you recognize where your energy is best spent. You think about all the times you've worried about things that were completely out of your hands, only to realize that they played out in a way you couldn't have predicted. Worrying about these things doesn't help you or anyone else. It only robs you of your peace. Now, consider what you can control. You can control your thoughts, your reactions, your self-care, and your behavior. You have the power to choose how you show up in the world, regardless of the circumstances around you. You can decide how you respond to stress, whether you take time for yourself to recharge, or whether you engage in habits that support your mental and physical well-being. For example, when a stressful situation arises, perhaps you're facing a deadline at work, there's a lot you can't control. You can't control how others might react to the situation, how much time you have left, or what external factors might come into play. But you can control how you approach it. You can choose to focus on the tasks at hand, break them into manageable steps, and avoid spiraling into panic about things you can't change. You can also choose to prioritize your well-being by taking breaks, eating well, and practicing stress relief techniques like deep breathing or meditation. You may not be able to control every aspect of the situation, but you can control how you take care of yourself as you navigate it. Another area where focusing on what you can control makes a big difference is in your relationships. You can't control other people's actions or emotions, but you can control how you communicate and how you set boundaries. If you find yourself in a situation where someone's behavior is causing you stress, you have the ability to decide how you respond. You can choose to address the issue calmly, express your feelings respectfully, or even remove yourself from a toxic environment if needed. In every interaction, you have the power to decide how you engage, and this can have a huge impact on your mental and emotional state. A major aspect of focusing on what you can control is taking responsibility for your own actions and responses. When stress arises, it's easy to shift the blame or feel like a victim of circumstances, but doing so only increases your anxiety. Instead, take ownership of how you can respond in the situation. Ask yourself, what is in my control here? It could be something as simple as how you choose to speak to yourself, perhaps reminding yourself that you are capable of handling this moment. Or it could be something more tangible, like setting boundaries or organizing your tasks in a way that feels manageable. One powerful aspect of this shift is realizing that even in chaotic, uncertain times, you still have the ability to make choices. Anxiety often thrives when we feel helpless or powerless, but focusing on what you can control reinforces your power. Even if life feels overwhelming, reminding yourself that there are aspects of the situation that you can influence brings you back to a place of agency and strength. Taking control of what you can also means letting go of perfectionism. So often we stress over how everything needs to be done perfectly, from our work to our personal lives. But trying to control every detail only adds pressure and drains your energy. Instead of striving for perfection, focus on progress. Focus on doing your best, but understand that it's okay if things aren't flawless. When you accept that some things are outside your control and that imperfections are part of life, it relieves a tremendous amount of stress. Focusing on what you can control doesn't mean that you can completely eliminate stress or anxiety, but it helps you shift the balance. Instead of becoming overwhelmed by everything outside your control, you bring your attention to what you can influence. And when you do this, you not only reduce the mental load, but also build resilience. You train yourself to take charge of the things you can control. And this creates a sense of empowerment that combats the helplessness that often fuels stress. The more you practice focusing on what you can control, the more natural it becomes. Each time you take conscious control of your thoughts, your actions, or your environment, you reinforce your ability to handle difficult situations. Over time, you'll find that you approach stress with more confidence, more clarity, and more peace. The key is to stop fixating on what's outside your influence and start focusing on what you can do right now to take care of yourself and move forward. In closing, it's important to remember that stress and anxiety are part of life, but they don't have to define you. You have the power to shift your mindset, take control of your reactions, and focus on what you can change. Every small step you take, no matter how insignificant it might seem in the moment, builds momentum and creates lasting transformation. The 5-second rule, focusing on what you can control, and taking responsibility for your thoughts and actions are tools that will empower you to move through life with more confidence, resilience, and peace. Don't underestimate the power of small, consistent actions. With each choice to move forward, to take control, and to act, you are creating a life where you can manage stress and anxiety not as a perfect solution, but as a powerful, ongoing process. So, the next time you feel overwhelmed, remember this: you are in control of how you respond, and every small action you take makes a big difference. Start now, and let each step guide you toward a calmer, more empowered version of yourself.